All right, everybody. In this episode, you're going to really love it. It's a banger. Craig and I were on fire talking about all the things about failing to plan is planning to fail, right? Every dentist has to have an exit or a transition at some point in their career. What do you want yours to look like? And the common problem we see is that it's thought of in the year or 18 months prior to when you want to do it. So we go through a number of iterations on this, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's go. Hey, everybody. Today we have an amazing episode, something that we've been getting a lot of questions about and always have in the mastermind. And it's talking about succession planning, right? The exit planning for dentists. And what Craig and I find is that people start way too late in this process. Craig, I would contend that everybody at some point, right? This is applicable to everybody because everybody at some point will either sell or succeed to the next of kin, whatever that looks like. Next of kin, if you, I guess, in your case, or next of associate. But there will be you won't be practicing dentistry forever, right?
Yeah, there's bad news for all of us that are listening to this, and I hate to break it to some of you, but everyone's dying. So no matter how old you are.
Well, Brian Johnson's not, apparently.
Well, let's see.
Yeah, right.
He probably won't be alive to see it because he's going to live to like 130. But yeah, it's not a question of if there's a succession plan, it's when. And timing really matters. So I'm happy that we're doing this podcast because I actually got a call a couple of days ago from one of my dental school buddies out of the Clear Blue. And he's like, hey, I just want to talk to you. You know, he's 58 and he's just really wanted to, this podcast, this is for you, John Spiro. This podcast is for you, bud. So we had a long conversation. We were just talking, catching up and stuff like that. But we just want to listen and discuss the ideas that we all have to ultimately start to think about. And it's never too early to start this process.
Yeah. And I think this aligns with, you always talk about your vision and having clarity about what you want. And like I was saying in the start, I think I told you about this example. I was looking at a practice to buy maybe a year ago about this time. No, it was probably last August. Okay. And I called him and I talked to the broker and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, Doc wants to be out before the end of the year. And I was like, you mean like done and done? And he was like, yeah, he's going to hand the keys over and walk away. I was like, oh, okay. So like, I was like, just so you know, you can't ask 90% of top line revenue when the doctor is walking away that day. Like, it's just, there's no transition. He was like, yeah, well, I know. I kind of told him this. My point is that there's if you plan properly, you won't leave a bunch of money or potential value on the table. So
yeah, I just want to double click on what you just said, just so people can understand, because we talk about this so much. I worry we're above what people comprehend. There's two things when you sell a practice. Number one is the assets, obviously the chairs, the laser, the light, the plumbing. There's some intrinsic value to having a dental office that's equipped. We all agree on that. The next thing is the goodwill. So when that doctor told you, hey, I want you to buy my practice, it's a gold mine. We're doing $2 million a year and I want to be out by Thursday.
Right.
You're really, at the end of the day, the stress and the immediacy of the transition causes a shockwave through the patient base, and they typically flee. And team. Yeah, everybody's gone. So like at the end of the day, you may wind up buying something that literally no one's there. So then you look around, you're like, okay, what did I pay for these chairs? And that would be an asset sale.
Wouldn't you agree?
Like if you got injured or if you got hit by a bus. If you get hit by a bus, the state boards of most of our states require that you transition fairly quickly. So if you got hit by a bus, you're the sole producer in your practice, your spouse is going to be forced with the same type of paradigm where they have an asset sale, a fire sale.
And we do see that a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So look, there are, when I made this presentation, I was like, look, I want to kind of make it very simple. And there's three real pathways to think about, in my opinion. There's basically the example we've just been talking about, which is sell and walk away.
Yep.
And you can expect that, I put this in multiples, Craig, and not EBITDA value. But let me zoom up. The question I was going to ask before this slide to you was this. Would you agree that the value of the practice is most dentist retirement plan?
Yeah, I would absolutely say that. So said another way, just for simplicity's sake, the value that they believe the practice is worth is the largest single item in their net worth,
Right.
their estate plan,
Yes.
their
What they
wealth.
think, right? But it's
Yes.
like, look, something's only worth what someone is willing to pay. And you can put in hocus pocus on your net worth sheet. And especially if you're not planning properly, what you think may be worth 100% of top line revenue, 200% or whatever, could ultimately be, if, like you said, if you have an accident or an asset sale, it could be a 2x or a 1x or a half x even. I've seen it where they're just asset sales, like you said. So
or worst case scenario, Pete, a liability, like not worth anything.
Right.
You know, and I hate to say it, but we should say it here that if you have that 3 operatory practice and maybe you own your condo, you know, and if there could be a situation where no one wants to buy it, especially in the event of something untimely, like if you got hit by a bus, it could literally be a liability, strapping your family to something.
So if you're not watching this on YouTube, I'm going to talk about the 3 quote unquote exit pathways. Number 1, the sell and walk away. Number 2 is the partner path with transition of transitioning to partners all the way through, like titrating out through gradual transition. And number 4 would be to sale to a larger group or private equity or DSO of some sort. And I have the values associated on these slides, right? So sell and walk away is the easiest, the cleanest. Unfortunately, it's probably the least optimization of the value of the practice, because you're basically handing it all over and you're like, have fun, have a nice life, right? And that's a wrap. And so typically those values, Craig, are presented from a broker perspective as a top line revenue. Have you ever seen that? So I look at a lot of practices for sale, and the broker, right, they know this game. They present it as, hey, doc, this is a good deal. This is a 75% of top line revenue. If you know what you're doing, right, and as an avid Bulletproof listener by now, you know how to dissect P&Ls and calculate EBITDA and do add backs and all the things. You can then estimate what the owner benefit would be, because more than likely you are buying this as for looking for entrepreneurial profit, meaning you may be buying it and going to work in yourself. In that case, you're buying his job, which is a whole other thing, right? But from an entrepreneurial profit standpoint, you need to look at it. So where I'm going, and I will land the plane on this one example, Craig, is that sometimes a percentage of top line, which is typically the single practice, sometimes it's a good deal, actually, right? You can imagine, because they're not accounting for any profitability in that. Sometimes that sell and walk away, that 75% or 80% of top line revenue is actually an 8x, because there's only, let's say, $50,000 of entrepreneurial profit in there. Right. So it's a terrible deal. So this is why I hate the methodology of the top line percentage of revenue, which, dentistry, we've gotten in that mindset, unfortunately. And it's predicated on the brokers and banks. Banks usually would just lend on that amount. So,
well, also, Pete, just to kind of explain a little bit further, the reason why we do top percentage of top line revenue, I would say, is the overwhelming percentage of practice transitions is one dentist selling their job to another dentist who wants to do that job.
Right.
And I think we have to just pause here, because we hear this a lot, and I know I say it to you a lot, but I want to make sure that people on the podcast understand this. When you say, "Oh, old man Dr. Jones, he's got a gold mine over there," they do $3 million a year. If Dr. Jones does all on X, or just is really talented in one specific domain, when you take over his position, if you don't do that, the practice is not the gold mine. So we conflate the two things of a business and a job.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important to just dissect this. And we're seeing masterminders that are literally on their second, third, and fourth locations, just like with this light bulb that's going off, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I actually
the procedural code too, Craig, is the important thing, meaning there may be Dr. Jones.
The procedure mix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well,
the procedure mix.
There you go. Yeah, same thing.
Right. So
he may be doing implants and all on X and whatever, and you may be, a cosmetic guy. And so
we have a masterminder that bought a practice, and he's going to probably wind up unwinding from it, because it's like, this is a gold mine. I'm like, well, what about as a gold mine? Because they all really want to see this old doctor, and they're not going to want to see you.
Right.
So, you're going to a restaurant almost that has a very famous chef. And when the chef is gone, the restaurant is just plates and waiters and food, but it's not the chef. So I think it's just really important. The reason why I think we just have to get very just honest about what we're buying. Are you buying another person's job, which is totally cool, by the way? And I want to say that that's totally cool to do so. Or do you want to buy a business? Or
Yep.
are you just buying assets? Are you just buying chairs and lights?
The thing that we encourage, I would say, Craig, overwhelmingly in Bulletproof, obviously we're not team never sell, right? I mean, because sometimes it just makes sense, right? I'm looking at the private equity option. Sometimes it makes sense. But the thing that we are proponents of is get a growing practice and sell fractional shares to partners over time, right? Transition that way. It's healthy because it puts a lot of ownership chips on the table, a lot of that mentality. This, Craig, takes the longest amount of time if you're looking at the slideshow, right? The sell and walk away is pretty easy. The 18 months, leaving a ton of value. The partnership path is more of a 10-year strategy where you start taking on partner number one as it sets the precedent and the tone and the mechanism for how others are onboarded. And then you sell fractional shares, right? And you get this growing ecosystem that's more fun. And you and I have both done that, and it's worked well. And I think we encourage people to kind of look at that. But again, this takes plan. This is one of those things that's like that I always tell people, like, pick your head up and like think what you want, architect your life, because before you know it, it's going to be time for transition, if you will. And failing to plan is planning to fail kind of thing.
Right. And I want to just we've gone through two of the three. Okay. So we have the sell and walk and we have the partnership path. Both are great depending on what you want. So like my dad, I always say this, if he had one magic wand, if he had one wish, what would he want to do at 84? He'd love to be practicing dentistry again. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you love your craft and you love dentistry, amazing. God bless you. You're so lucky that you can be in it and love the clinical dentistry. That maybe the best pathway for you as a solopreneur, a solo entrepreneur, is to literally just work in it for 6 or 7 more years and then throw it away.
Right.
Because like what we're talking about, when you talk about private equity, it's really like a paycheck advance. They're paying you with your own money. That's the thing. Like you're going to get a liquidity event. They're going to pay you for the practice, but then they're going to take all the profit away. So long term, you can actually argue that they've paid you with their own money. Or your own money.
And that multiple, a fun hack with that is whatever multiple you get is the number of years they've paid you on the go forward. Right. So if it's a 5, they paid you 5 times. Yeah. 5 years.
So if you want to do dentistry for 10 and you sell to PE and they give you a 6 multiple, you could actually almost argue it'd be better for you to work the 10 because you just made 4 more turns on your money and then throw it away or sell it for a discount.
Well, there's a few more caveats to that, right? I know. I'm Holdco and stuff like that. But I see what you're saying.
I'm being sensational just for the art of simplicity, because when we look at what we did, Peter and I were super, super clear. We were very intentional. And when we met each other, all those years ago, 10 years ago now, it was like, what do you want to create? We both wanted to create dental businesses. And what does that mean? That means that it creates revenue without us being there. So what do we need? If you're going to have a business that runs without you, you better have a managing partner. You better have someone at your store that has some skin in the game.
Agreed. Especially when there's multiple locations. It's just too daunting.
With anything.
Yeah.
Show me the incentivization plan. I'll show you the outcome. When you have people that actually own, it becomes a more stable ecosystem. And frankly, the percentages that we've diluted, because for those of you who think you're dividing up your cupcake in the diminishing pie theory, we always say this, the percent that we've diluted, we've picked up in growth. So in other words, you sell 20, 30%, your 60, 70% that you have left should become larger than the 100% that you owned originally. That's the idea behind that.
This is something that interests everybody. Craig, this presentation, and even though this is the second time we recorded, because the first time was technical difficulties, but my point is that it's so on people's mind. And I know it's on people's mind because it's a recurring theme in these 8 masterminds we have. And so much so that like I made that the partnership guide, and I took basically all of our documents, merged them, condensed, aggregated them. It's a 28-page step-by-step to go through this partnership stuff. And I think people stop on, ooh, that sounds complicated, or, oh, I don't want to give up my pie, or, oh, I don't want to be 50-50 with someone. And what you should know is that not everyone wants 50%, right?
Well, I think Yeah, I
Go
know.
ahead.
I think it's really important. We talk about this a lot. I just want everybody to hear this. We start with percentages when we think in dental partnerships. So we have two fundamental biases. Number one, we're typically treating people's jobs. That's number one bias. So I have 3 chairs. I'm retiring. I do $2 million a year. Hey, Dr. Junior, do you want to buy my ecosystem? And I'll phase out, you phase in. You'll do the work that I used to do.
Right.
So you're buying a job. That's why we do the percentage of top line revenue. And we're also wired to think partners are 50-50.
Yeah.
You know, I screenshot something the other day. You didn't comment on it, but I'm sure you got it. I put $300,000 into a deal. Do you remember this text I sent you? And I put my finger on it?
Maybe.
Okay, so anyway, it's funny. It says $300,000. It shows me my cash on cash return.
Oh, yeah,
which is outstanding. It's at 11% or 12%, which is phenomenal. I'm super happy at that level. And it says percentage owned in the deal, 0.67%. I don't even own I own a little over half of 1% of this real estate deal.
Right.
I would love to own 50%, but I don't do math quick. That would be millions of dollars. I don't have millions of dollars to dump in here. So if we could just approach partnerships with an associate or a pathway to partnership. Hey, Dr. Junior, what type of investment is meaningful for you? Right? I mean, for me, it was meaningful for me to scrape together 300 grand to put it in this deal. And I feel very good about that. When I bought Amazon, it was a swing for the fences. I put in 100 grand. It was one of the largest investments I ever put into a single stock. You know, when COVID crashed and VTI, the S&P 500 went to the toilet, I put in 200 grand, got cold feet, and wound up selling half of it back. Had I just kept it all in there, I would have been like triple my money.
Your point is that the returns are the percentage of what you own of the aggregate is irrelevant to the amount of return. It has
always been irrelevant in everything I've ever invested in.
Yeah, and I get that.
The limiting factor for me, Peter, has been how much money can I afford to put in? How many things have you said? How many times have you said to me, Peter? I mean, Craig. Sorry. How many times have you said to me, Peter, if I had more money, I would dump all of it in here? Or if I had this, I would dump. Yeah, you always say that to me.
Yeah.
It's never a question of like, I want to take down X percentage of this deal. So why in dentistry do we do that? If we ask our doctors, hey, what's meaningful for you? They may say something that's shockingly surprising. Like my newest partner that's coming in, what's meaningful for him is 300 grand.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a good reframe. And then you can reverse engineer what that percentage looks like based on, you know, like obviously you have to get to a percentage of something just because of the distributions and blah, blah, blah. Yes. But I hear what you're saying. We're asking the wrong question first versus like, hey, just arbitrarily assigning a percentage and then figuring out the price. Figure out the price and then let that determine the percent is what you're saying.
So let's just kind of quickly walk through that, okay? So let's say you do $1 million. That's rich. Say you do $100,000 of entrepreneurial profit, meaning it's you and another doc. And after everybody's paid, all the doctors are paid, you pay yourself 25 to 30% of an associate wage. What's left over is 100 grand.
Yep.
Right. And let's just say, for the sake of our argument, you want to value it at a 6, right?
Yep.
So it's 600 grand is the enterprise value. 6 times your EBITDA, 6 times 100. Your practice is 600 grand. That's the enterprise value, right?
Yes.
I want to put in $150,000. Okay. I feel comfortable. I feel I can afford. I have $150,000 in my checking account, earning 4% per year, right?
Yep.
I put the 150 in. What percentage do I have? It would be 150 divided by 600. It'd be 25%.
Yeah. I'm
a 25% owner.
Yeah.
So you will get $25,000 because you own 25% of the practice. It gets 100 grand of basically EBITDA or we could just conflate EBITDA and profit for the sake of simplicity. Your distribution will be 25 grand on 150.
And in 6 years, you will have been made whole, right? That's the 6X.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say. It's the paycheck advance.
Perfect. The other thing to think about, and this is the way every sophisticated business person and investor thinks, is what is my cash on cash return percentage? What do I make on my money? Right? So like in my Capital One account, I know I make 3.2%. So that's better than leaving it like under my mattress, right? But with a $25,000 return on a $150,000 investment, you're making 16.6%.
So
Peter, my question to you is if I said, hey, I can pretty much, like, this is like, inside baseball, you see how this business is going. You work here every day with me. If you invest, I can pretty much, if nothing changes, base case scenario, we don't grow this sucker, you'll get 16.6% cash on cash.
Yeah.
Would you say to me something like, I won't do it unless you let me buy in for $1 million? Would you say, I won't give you 100 grand? I won't give you, I'll only do it if you take 200 grand of mine.
I mean,
would you ever say something like that?
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I would say to that. I mean, I think I would just say, oh, this math makes sense, and it puts a chip on the table. Possibly, there may be a conversation of titrating up on that partnership, meaning like, hey, I'm going to allow you to buy into 25. We're going to go to 33, but it's going to be over time. So that we will reevaluate these tranches over time. I have that in my partnership guide because I think that's a good way also to test the partnership in case of whatever's, right? And this is
you're
not
bringing up a good point, by the way.
So I know, but I don't want this to be a podcast on partnerships. I want it to be.
I know, but you said something, and I just want to end it so we don't send people off the wrong way. You said something about testing the partnership. Test before the partnership. Associate should be a year in your practice before you go to partnership, and then we'll end it. We'll go to the next point. Yeah,
there's some criterion, right? That you give 3 criterion that are really important for testing the partnership. But yes, you definitely this isn't a flippant decision, but sometimes things go awry, Craig, is where I'm going.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last example, right? The thing that potentially has on paper to be the most accretive to your net worth is the things that we hear about in the EBITDA, and you go to these conferences like whatever, an entrepreneurial dental conferences, and you hear EBITDA thrown around, right? And so it's these, what multiple do they get? Like, this is the vernacular you'll hear. Oh, what was that multiple? And so this is how it's a little confusing. And yes, it's sexy, but I will tell you that it only gets worse over time in the deal, meaning, hey, doc, we'll give you an 8, and you'll transition over 5 years. Hey, doc, we'll give you this 8. You're going to work for us for probably 3 to 5 years. Oh, by the way, we're only going to give you this 60% up front of that 8 multiple. So let's say going back to your example, Craig, let's actually use a $1 million EBITDA. Let's just throw this out. Hey, doc, we're going to give you we'll give you a 6 times multiple on your practice. You have $1 million EBITDA. Holy cow. Your practice, we're going to give it an enterprise value of $6 million. And so all that doc has heard, what is, Craig? Shit, I'm getting a check for $6 million. Not so fast. So in the deal, right, after the sexy term sheet comes, the next thing that comes is the memorandum that basically breaks down how that $6 million will be deployed. Number of ways. Yes, you're going to be paid as an associate, right? So put that aside. That's the cost of labor, right? You're only being paid on your entrepreneurial profits on a go forward. So $6 million. Hey, we're going to give you. And what do you see, Craig? Typically cash at close. What do you see on deals? 60%?
60, 70.
60, 70, right? So we'll give you $3 million of that right now.
Yep.
Right? Or $4 million right now. And the rest, we're going to hold. We're going to have some what's called earn out money on hold. And we're going to have some holdback money to make sure this deal is good. And then we'd likely have some preferred stock in there. Maybe you're going to have to contribute some of that value into what's called our hold co, right? Let's say they mandate that you put in 10 or 20% into private stock and of their company. So my point of all this is it's not a check and you get it and then you live happily ever after and you walk away, right? There's 3 or 4 buckets. I guess the takeaway for this, Greg, is there's 3 or 4 buckets that compose that $6 million price tag. So it's not as clean as you think. And we unfortunately have heard really bad stories where that hold co goes to 0 because you have no control over it. We've also seen great examples where that hold co goes 10x if you get in early or something, or you're with good management. So it's a little bit of a crapshoot. But going back to, let's zoom up, back to my first question. If this is your main retirement, are you able to play the crapshoot, right? And I don't know the answer to that. That's not a rhetorical question. That may be a yes, that may be a no, but there is a little bit of risk in selling to private equity. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
if the company's insolvent, if they have a ton of debt, if they have a high debt ratio, debt to leverage ratio rather.
Yeah, it's that story I talked to you about. With the
charity with event. That big DSO you were saying, so, people don't know yet.
Well, and I would tell you that they'll never know. So I was at a charity event this past weekend and met with a pediatric dentist, and she's a lovely person. She's like, "Oh, I sold to such and such a DSO." I'm like, "Oh, how's it going? It's going amazing. Congratulations. I'm so excited. I put all this money in, rolled it forward as per the agreement. So I know it's going to be great." And then I wound up having dinner with a very large DSO. And they told me the inside baseball about like what's going on. They say, "Hey, Acme DSO." I'm like, "Of course I do. My friend just sold." I'm like, right. "Oh, wow. Did you hear what happened?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, they took on mezzanine or debt financing to just bail them out. Like basically like a credit card advance at like 18%. Their interest rate on their debt is 18%.
So the founders could have liquidity.
So the founder of the DSO, of Acme DSO, and this is one of the largest DSOs out there, he got his money and he diluted the crap out of everybody. Yeah. And I would bet you, Peter, that it will be coaxed and messaged and brought to my dentist friend in a way that she will not understand how badly she just got screwed.
Until it's time for liquidity.
And I will bet you they don't talk about that. Like when you take out debt, if you took out debt on your practice, if you needed to stay afloat with your payroll, Peter, and it was 18%, your loan, you could become insolvent. You'd be only surviving a couple points. That means the first 18% profit this DSO makes goes towards their debt repayment.
Well, on that principal amount, yes, I agree. I mean, but look, this is how our country's in a debt spiral too. You can get yourself into a debt spiral.
Country can get bailed out. Companies don't.
Just print money, right? So, Greg, I did not advance the slide, but like here's what when I was talking about the PE thing, here it is in front of you. There's 5 components of things that actually reduce your PE proceeds: 5-year lockup, the earnout. Meaning the earnout is you only get the full price if it hits targets that have been projected. There's holdback money that's held for 12 to 18 months, and then rollover 10 to 30% invested for 5+ years. Okay. So more than meets the eye. Okay.
And by the way, when you get slid across, because Peter, you and I have been at dinner when we have the offering from the PE, the LOI, you will never see an LOI that doesn't blow your socks, knock your socks off. It's going to be like, "Hey, I know we're only giving you this, right, but here's the pro forma. We're going to roll this money forward, and you're going to get
100 bites of the apple."
And then, by the way, that's just one, but they'll iterate and show you the financial plan. So your true value after all 3 liquidity events over the next 7 years, you're going to basically get like a 25 times EBITDA.
Yeah,
you can't afford not to do this.
And you sit there and you think, well, they are business people. Maybe they know more than I do. Yeah. And they're not lying. Had you have 6 bites of the apple, you would, right? And so a bite of the apple is people who don't know, that you hear that term thrown around. It's every time the private equity sells to someone else, there's something called recapitalization, right? So private equity buys one hot potato, they sell it to another one. There's some cash injected. You get a liquidity, and that's a bite of the apple. Every time there's a new partner, that's a bite. Okay.
And the antithesis to that is when you have to get bailed out, like one of the most major DSOs, and by the way, I don't think there's been any DSO that's been recapitalized, sold in the last year or two. There's actually...
Well, you get to a size, Craig, and it gets really hard, right? It's really hard to go, when you're $1 billion DSO, it's really hard to go to 2 billion because that's only a 50x. But it's easy to go from 100,000 to $1 million. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you something. If you're showing massive profit and same store growth, everyone wants to date you. I agree with you. It's really hard, but there's a buyer for, any company when it's iconic and doing great. So I just want to point out that there's the one side and there's what just happened to this major DSO where everybody got diluted. So you owned 100 shares. Now you own 50. Yes. That sucks. You need a lot more bites and a lot more apples to recoup that.
All right. So here comes back to the, what do you do, right? We've explained, I think we've given the setup. Yeah. We've lost everyone. Everyone's like, what are y'all talking about? So we've explained the three scenarios. So this is like where would I invest to maximize for said path? Door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3? Okay. And so Craig, if I was trying to optimize for door number 1, remember, it's just sell and walk away. Should I buy new equipment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Why not?
Well,
I mean, sell and walk. You want to increase your listen, you're asking the question in a different way to me.
Okay.
I don't understand the sell and walk, but I have to paint the picture of the person who's like that. Sell and walk means to me, no business, just 3 operatories and a job.
Well, and potentially optimizing for top line. If that's the metric on which value is assigned, you want to do whatever you can do.
You work Saturdays.
Yeah, that's right. That's to optimize for top line revenue. If you're trying to optimize for the partnership path, the fractional partnership over time, right? You're going to want to be investing in the practice, right? I had to build, Craig, a new building in Blairsville because I couldn't attract talent to the old dumpy building that we used to practice in. It was just too much. So I had to make an invest for the scale and new people to come in and potential new partners to come in, which actually I'm looking for 2 dentists in that location. So if you're interested, hit me up. But I had to build a new building because like people sense that energy, right? They see the expansion. They see it's just like you're doing. Right. With it,
it's an obligation to grow shareholder value. When you have a partner and you sell something under the promise that it's going to be great, you have pressure on yourself to make it even greater.
Right.
So you invest, you grow. Your first partner, I saw your first partnership presentation. It was helpful for me to see that all those years ago because it helped shape my offer to my future partners.
Right.
And it was basically, hey, we're not just going to have one Atlanta dental spa. We'd have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So like, hey, why would you not buy in at the ground floor?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, that was instrumental in showing everybody the path. Cause as the acting CEO, right, it wasn't like, hey, let's all hold hands and make all the decisions together, kumbaya. It was like, if you trust where this is going, let me get us there kind of thing. Let me open these locations. Let me do
like
this.
What I've done.
Here's the vision.
What I'm going to do.
Jump on board. Versus like, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. Right. People like certainty, All right. And then the last, if you're trying to optimize for the DSO, even giving or a private equity exit, obviously the thing that you're going to be looking at and getting really crystal clear about is your entrepreneurial profit or your EBITDA. So you're going to be maximizing for that. So Craig, no free lunches anymore, right? Like you used to provide lunch. No, look, there are some things that you just can't, but this is where you're going to be trying to apply, always looking for the cheapest supplies, right? Negotiating deals there, lab deal. Like, look, just being a shrewd business person that says, I see some opportunity for efficiencies, whatever that looks like. Because guess what? If you've heard this term called arbitrage, with private equity, the arbitrage for them is, hey, we can buy the practice, and yes, it may have $250,000 of EBITDA, for example, but we know day one through our economies of scale, if you've heard that we can get that to 310 without doing anything because our supplies are cheaper, our labs are cheaper,
clear aligners are cheaper,
our insurance are cheaper, or whatever it is. We know day one. So that is an arbitrage. Same thing. We just know day one we can make it profitable.
Right. More profitable. You know what the kicker is? It's going to make everybody realize that the DSOs are ultimately we're fighting a formidable challenge. Is not only they can get their supplies cheaper and they can kind of save their way.
Insurance.
They get higher reimbursement rates.
Yeah.
So when you have an Acme DSO in your neighborhood and you get from Aetna, $1,000 a crown, they get $1,100 or $1,200. So listen, in most businesses, Dunkin' Donuts has to sell a certain price latte because Starbucks is selling something similar. Excuse me, but DSOs, they can actually affect reimbursement rates. So it's pretty compelling. Their future is pretty compelling.
So I guess in closing, Craig, that that there's millions of dollars could be lost. And here's some mistakes that you want to avoid. What I see happens a lot, and this may resonate with some people listening, is that when you start getting burnt out in dentistry, you want to pull the F it card. Oh, I'm so tired of this shit. I just want, I'm just going to sell. I just want to sell. And sometimes it gets so bad that people actually proceed with that. They go to a broker, just get me out before the end of the year, like that example. And so that is a long-term solution for probably a temporary psychology, right? And it may be that you're only burnt out because you don't have a partner, or you haven't looked at that, meaning you don't have someone to confide in or help you do payroll or whatever it is you're doing, right? Maybe that is the antidote for some of this burnout. Or you just say, hey, I'm not gonna work 6 days a week. I'm gonna work 4 or 3 or whatever. But so we make these draconian decisions, and it's like, oh, forget it. Just get me what you can, right? I want to be out by the end of the year. So that's a huge, huge money left on the table.
I think what you're saying too is getting to an emotional point where you can't handle it anymore.
Right.
Like, don't ever make a long-term decision on an emotional state. And like so many of us just eat so much glass. It's just like, can't do it again. Like I just can't even go in on Monday. I have a nervous breakdown.
Right. And this is what I'm saying. So this is the whole thesis of this pod, is that start ideating about what you want, because when you get to that state, you are not cleared. You are not clear. And if you knew 10 years ago that in year 10, you were going to throw the keys and walk away, that feels like a victory to you because you planned it out, versus at year 8.5, when you hate your life and you ultimately sell at 10 too, it's a surrender. The game beats you. Right. But it's two outcomes that can be very much the same outcome, right? Selling and walking away. But one was victorious because you planned it, and the other one was a surrender.
Yeah. And it's just, it bothers people so much to have these conversations, Peter. That's why people don't do it.
Because
there are famous stories of billionaires who had no estate plan. No exit plan.
Because this isn't even an estate plan. I mean, I guess it is. I guess it's part of one.
It's a transition plan. Yeah. It's hard emotionally. It's like doing a will. You don't want to think about it. You're 55, 60 years old. In your mind, you have 15, 20 years before you have to think about this. Life happens. It's uncomfortable. Right. People don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing is dentists, unfortunately, I have a friend, my buddy Norm, he works with pilots and doctors and dentists and accountants and lawyers. And we are amongst the worst when it comes to saving and investing. We do something about us. We don't think about the future as much.
Because it's back to what I just said. Most people feel that the value is in their practice. I'll sell my practice one day for buku billions because I went to this seminar and I heard the word 9X.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm probably going to get 9X. No.
And on top of it, they don't pay themselves an associate wage.
Right.
So they actually think they're netting $1 million. They're not netting $1 million. Yes, you make $1 million. Congrats, doc. You're awesome. But your business doesn't make that because you worked for free.
Right. Right. So your cost of labor needs to be subtracted from that.
Which they will do to you.
Oh, for sure.
They will do to you.
Sure.
Hey, by the way, you don't pay yourself, doc. You do $1 million of production. We're going to take
300,000
of that. So right. now your profit is in that. I mean, I have doctors that we've taken people through this where their profit is $290,000 and they produce $1 million,
right,
and collect $1 million. So when you take $300,000 and put it towards their pay, their profit is negative 20,000. There's nothing. That sucks. I've been there.
Another mistake to avoid, I have this, is do your best to be careful about mixing personal expenses in your practice financials. It'll get hard, especially in
all these scenarios.
In all these scenarios, but really in 2 and 3, right? The partner and the PE. It gets, if you have not clean books, and look, I know that we run cars because that's our business car, and we run CE and things like that through the business. It's part of the luxury of owning a business, is there are some expenses that can be depreciated.
Yeah, fringe benefits. Just categorize them.
Right. But be clear about that. So it's not a piggy bank, because it'll be very cloudy when time comes to either figure out partnership percentages and things like this and PE buyouts. another thing I have here is like if you know that you're going to be exiting in 12 months or you're having a PE sale, don't be buying a bunch of lasers and scanners and things like that. You're not going to get attribution for new equipment because all that they care about is the go forward revenue. And it hasn't been proven. If you can't attach, hey, we had a 5% bump due to getting this laser in our revenues, then you will not get attribution for that capital expense.
Okay? Yeah, certain DSOs will allow you to get some sort of earn up, and or like as well as an earn out. Like, so if you put in like 3 new operatories, they could possibly give you credit, but I think, it would be best for you to show the income and then.
Yeah, it's a lot easier of a sell when you show a run rate. In almost all of these, Craig, the SOPs is vital, right? The documented systems of how this works is vital in almost all of these. Probably less in the, hey, you have a job and you're walking away or you're selling your job. Probably less in that because it's probably more than likely a smaller team, and it just works because you're a 5 or 6 person team and whatever. But as you get bigger, and as you have multiple locations or you get past a revenue point, things that are attractive to a private equity buyer and a future partner is lack of chaos, right? So if the practice is buttoned up and you have your SOPs, not your office manual, which I guess it could be, but like a real bona fide system of if this happens, then what in our practice? If this, then that. And it's just a sexy way. It's the reason actually, Craig, that people, if I were wanting to go start a coffee shop, maybe coffee is a bad example. Yeah, coffee's fun, right? And I was uncertain about how to run it. I would buy a franchise model. I would buy Joe's Franchise Coffee because why? Because I wanted their equipment list and I wanted the way that they did things and I wanted their operation manuals. I wanted all the things buttoned up in their SOPs. In a franchise model, you're really buying their SOPs and I guess some brand equity, but like that's the gig. Okay. So that is it. That is the end of the presentation. I
love it. Did you record this one or we left this one in the cloud as well?
Well, this one, like I said, I tried to use the new Riverside app and it didn't work so well, but it's fun to go through it again. I feel like I have been neck deep in this kind of conversation, especially with that, like I said, that guide that, I've gotten a lot of great feedback from our masterminders, Craig, about that, because I think it deciphers like how to do it, right? It's this, partnership, so mysterious. And it's like, no, it's not. Is it a big decision? Sure. Is it complex? Sure. But like, once you can kind of go down the list and say, oh, here's all the things, it's really very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. And just like marriage, the most important thing is just don't pick the wrong one.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. So the process of actually onboarding it's not a problem. It is just the process. The biggest thing is getting clarity around why you want this person and what an ideal partner is. People just don't do that. I think dentists, we like to build long-term relationships, and we see it. We see people that literally don't know each other. They've never worked a day in their lives in the same office. And we've seen it multiple times. And what do they say? We're going to be 50-50 partners. And by the way, we're not even going to pay ourselves a salary.
Yeah, so we're just going to cut it up at the end.
If my partner does $2 million a year in collection and I do $100,000 a year in collection, at the end of the year, we're just going to divide it all up.
Yep. And that sounds fun when you're kumbayaing and you're dating and everything's fun.
Or maybe you are collecting the exact same amount of money. But what happens in 5 years when one of you starts producing $3 million and the other one stayed at $1 million?
I cannot stress enough how that is not a good partnership. We have heard the outliers where that works, and they are usually best friends that works, and that's fine. And usually but I have seen hundreds fail because of that scenario right there, Craig. Let's just chop it up at the end. Resentment builds over time. Resentment doesn't get better. It just starts snowballing. Ask me how I know. I had a partnership that fell apart in my first one ever back in 2005. Right. But I was destined to change that and the way things are. And then since then I've done it 6 times since then. Right. So I had a breakup, went back to 100%. and then have done 6 partnership events in my career thus far. So I really can speak from this as a place of, it worked well for me. I put a lot of planning to it. Like you said, you've seen my pitch decks and my presentations and things. I spent a lot of time with that before partner number 1. I spent a lot of time with it because I knew I had the pain, Craig, of what it was like getting divorced 20 years ago.
And the other thing that you had a really good dose of, Peter, is clarity. Your partnership deck described a future which had not yet taken place.
Yeah.
So your partnership deck was not like, here's the percentage and here's this.
Right.
It was like, here's the Atlanta metro area. Yes, we're at practice number 1. Here's what I see. Here's a target map. Here's the future. You were a leader that described the future. And when you're doing partnerships, or you're doing complex treatment planning, those great people are the ones who can articulate the future. People that do full mouth reconstruction, it's not because the decay on the mesiolingual of this or that. You're like, hey, is it difficult? Are you embarrassed of your smile? Are you not chewing properly? Well, come with me in this journey while I'll restore your confidence and I'll give you back your smile. So I'd love to say it's the process. It was not the process. It was your vision that sold everybody. And I saw it. It was cool. And you executed.
Yeah. And
you're not done.
The interesting part about that, Craig, is that even that it felt like a big, look at this projections. I look back at that and I'm like, that was still probably small. I was small thinking, right? And
my projection, my original partnership offer was to somebody in 2019. And I said, by 2021 or 2022, we'll, base case scenario will be doing this. They were very anemic. I was careful, but it was anemic. We've crushed those goals.
Speaking about your thing, you obviously have some growth coming up, right? I know you're about to start construction.
Yeah, we're starting in 60 days.
By the way, I meant to ask you this. Since you're doing new construction, but it's not a ground up, does that qualify for the 100% bonus depreciation in the big, beautiful bill? It does. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if, because you won't even have to do a cost segregation. I know we're getting abstract a little bit in this pod, but I've been meaning to ask you this.
I will have to do one.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That building I just built as well, I just found out is year 100% of the cost to build. And who knows how long that will stay in effect. I'm guessing through Trump's entire term. But where I was going
for
with that,
some
Craig,
reason I thought it was permanent. I don't recall what he said.
Oh, it might be.
But
we'll see. What I was going to ask you though is, are you seeking, right? So we drink our own Kool-Aid. Are you seeking associates to partnerships, right? And are you seeking? You are always looking for people. So if you're looking, to potentially join Craig and his mission, reach out to Craig. Right. Like I said, I've got some amazing associate to partnership opportunities in that new building I built in Blairsville. You can hit me up at Peter at Bulletproof, dentalpractice.com, or Craig at Bulletproof if we're both looking for things.
We both want, listen, for us, if we had a magic wand, we'd be looking for a hungry individual who's obsessed with dentistry, who loves dentistry. And we're looking for an entrepreneur. We're looking for a person who can take our system and thrive in it.
Mm-hmm.
And also what we really want is we want people who are interested in owning. Because if you go to Peter's ecosystem or my ecosystem for 12 months or 15 months, checking it out, dipping your toe in the water and then want to move to Hawaii, that's not going to, listen, no one has a crystal ball. We don't know what your plans are, but we'd love to enter the relationship in good faith that you'd want to make a long-term partnership. Peter has people, I have people that have been there 15, 16 years more. And that's ideal. That's the way you build a stable business, by aligning and creating long-term value.
We actually, this is the last, we'll wrap on this, but when people, for instance, on a mastermind are asking about associates, like, how do I attract? And what if they ask about partnership? And I say, look, the answer is always yes. And they're asking about in their interview, the answer is yes, because it should be part of that. Doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to have to offer that. Don't be scared of that, but say yes. If there are criteria that are met and blah, 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 then I am amenable to letting you buy into this practice. So many thoroughbreds, when they hear the word no, will not proceed with your interview, right? When you're looking for thoroughbred associates, they'll just be like, all right, forget that. There's no path to ownership here there because the
There's
doc
no future.
didn't have clarity. The doc didn't have clarity on if this was possible. So our answer to tell people is just say yes, because who knows?
Yeah. Right? And when we have a mastermind, by the way, I go around the room and all these people that open their own practices and had worked in other places, I always ask, if one of your jobs that you had worked in had a pathway to partnership, would you have actually gone and opened up your own practice?
Oh, yeah.
More than half say no.
No.
So there was no future where they were working. So they had to open up their own practice.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you once again. If I do appreciate that the reviews have been climbing because, Craig, we have been asking, just like we should be asking our patients at the end of an appointment, ask for reviews. We're going to be asking you guys. So if we're giving you guys any value after almost, Craig, is this almost 10 years we've done this, by the way?
That's a lot. It's like 400 and something episodes. But listen, if you like it, if it's valuable, please share. A lot of these podcasts are helping a lot of people.
Forward it, join anything, watch it on YouTube, all the things. And final announcement: the book. I know we mentioned book. Is the book that we have written. I think we were aspirational about it.
Yeah,
and we've been done since probably June with this book called The Patient Experience, which doesn't exist, and it's out there. And for dentistry or medical, even there's no book that's called The Patient Experience. So we go through. It's a bigger book than the last one. It's very comprehensive. It should be launching. We are in the final stages of editing. So if you see an email coming to your box that it's now available for purchase, this was your reminder. But it's going to be cool. I'm really excited about it, actually. It's been a lot of work. But this is fun to have. It's one thing to have one book, Craig. It's another thing to have two.
Yeah. Yep. Tell that to Stephen
But I think
King.
it's really going to be
50.
Yeah.
Look at how happy he is too.
Enjoyed it. I will.
Thanks for doing this, Pete.
Over and
Appreciate
out.
it.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.